Hello and welcome, Lawyerish, a podcast for the people. Lawyerish is a safe space to both inspire and be inspired. So come on, ride. Let us go great together. I'm Brandon J. Wallace, Esquire, and I'll be your captain. It's a whole five. I sure am glad you're here. Lawyerish is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence, and we're powered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. Our Voyage Vibe today is brought to us by Kirk Smith. This is Prodigal Son. I like this vibe. You heard it once. Now you're here to twice. You're hear it again. I really like this. I'm glad Memphis. Grateful for the Memphis Music Bank for allowing us to utilize the vibe today. So thank you for that. Thank you to them. And thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. We're glad to be back. I'm glad to be back in the mix and glad to be back in the air. We've got an exciting show today. We've got some good friends of mine who are going to chat with us. Let's not belabor it. Let's get right in. All right, friends, we're back. It's time for Duly Noted. Got some technical difficulties there, but we're hanging in. We're going to go with the flow. It's time for Duly Noted today. I'm going to keep it short. I don't really have much to talk about this time. I've got some things loading, so stay tuned for that. So, but I will talk briefly about what's happening in the news. In the news today, one of the big things is Kamala Harris. Obviously, I talked about this in our last episode. Is the nominee for the Democratic Party for president of the United States. She's going up against, of course, former President Donald Trump. Everybody knows that now. And we're looking forward to the big debate coming up next month. But the big thing in the news right now is the media is up in arms because Kamala Harris has not done a sit-down interview or a press conference since she is announced. And I think they've got a somewhat legitimate gripe, I suppose. I mean, I'm all for her though. I think she doesn't need to do interviews right now. She's a little bit busy. When you agree, I mean, she became the nominee out of nowhere. She had to pick a vice president, of a running mate, we should say. Not to mention, she's got a full-time day job. So I think in terms of whether or not this is a real issue, I think it's not. I think the media's they want to talk with her. Of course, she should. Sit for interviews and do press conferences. And I imagine she will. She has. It's not like she's never done a press conference before. She did a sit-down interview on CNN with Anderson Cooper the night of that debate debacle. And she held her own. Millions of people were watching. She's done press conferences before. It's not like she's not a known entity. I think folks are overreacting a bit, but that's what people do. That's what certainly that's what the media does. I imagine if I were in the media, I might do the same, simply because I want an interview with the sitting vice president and the leading the person leading in the polls to be the president. I think also this is a false narrative that we're seeing develop, that she doesn't do interviews. I think we also saw that she was, invited and had accepted an invitation to participate with the National Association of Black Journalists. But that did not come to fruition because she was already scheduled to apparently drop the ball on allowing her to do the interview virtually. I mean, I think that was a failure on their part, especially when you allow Donald Trump to come in and just lie and say anything on the stage and be disrespectful to your members, but you won't you won't allow a virtual interview from the other candidate. Anyway, I'll leave them be. I think they're under enough pressure as it is. But my view of this is not a real issue. She's going to do interviews, and I think this is not a. It's not like she's ducking folks. I think she's busy, and I think ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. I think they're preparing for that. I think that's where her attention should be and ought to be, as well as getting out in front of voters, which is what she's been doing. I think she really wanted to stick it to the media. If I were advising her, and she, I think them complaining and moaning and groaning like they are, I still wouldn't do any interviews with them. I might just do some town halls so that now I'm answering the questions of the voters, not necessarily of the media, but I'm going to get out in front of the voters. I'm going to continue to let the voters get to know me and engage with voters. So I'd be doing big town halls and just talking to everyday Americans and answering their questions, and really kind of sticking it to the media. But that's me. That's why I'm not running for president, at least not yet. All right. That's duly noted. That's all I got for duly noted for now. But I just want to encourage you to, let's look out for the next one. It's going to be, we're going to shake the table a little bit on that. Anyway, that's duly noted. We'll be right back. All right, friends, we are back. It's now time for our favorite segment. It's Lawyerish. I am super excited to welcome my good friend and my frat brother, Mr. Antonio Kizzie. He is the founder and the managing attorney of the Kizzie law firm, or the Kizzie firm, excuse me. This good brother has established a practice in civil rights and also, I shouldn't say and also, civil rights and entertainment law. He fights cases around police misconduct and discrimination, and really fighting for justice. He's a super exciting guy, and I can't wait to chat with him about his journey today out in California in the sunshine. Is that the Sunshine State, Kizzie? What is that? What is California?
California is the Golden State.
The Golden State.
Florida is the Sunshine State.
Okay. A lot of sunshine and beaches. I think that's probably why you got such a bubbly personality. You're a pleasure to be around. Welcome to the show, sir. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Antonio, you just started this firm, right? You got the Kizzie firm. Super exciting. I want you to tell us all about it. First of all, congratulations to you on that. It's a big thing to be able to jump out there and hang your shingle. You've been, and it's something that's kind of been in the works for you for some time. You were kind of thinking about it. I remember you and I had some conversations about, while you were thinking about it, and that was some years ago. And then now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but right, it kind of feels like all of a sudden now you're here, and you're doing this big thing. You've done this big thing. And I can't tell you how proud I am of you. That's a huge thing. Congratulations again. What an accomplishment for you. I mean, how are you feeling about that right now? How's it going?
Man, I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Brandon, for having me. I'm truly honored to be here. I've admired and respected you, our whole relationship. So I'm honored to be here. In terms of starting my own firm, it's been fun. It's a journey. I've been stepping out on faith, and God has really provided. Cases seem to be falling in my lap. Initially, I was pretty nervous about it, but I figured I've been practicing law for about 14 years. I started in government as a prosecutor, a DUI prosecutor, after I graduated law school at UCLA because the economy was terrible. It wasn't the good, it was the Great Recession, if you recall. And then I went to a mid-sized law firm where I practiced personal injury, civil rights, among other areas of law. Then I went to a big corporate law firm doing big corporate things for about 2 years. That was my most recent law firm. Didn't like it too much in terms of what I was doing. I wanted to stick with the practice areas that speak to me, which is helping people in civil rights, personal injury, police brutality cases, things of that nature. And so I was like, I'm 37. I got time. You know what? Let me go ahead and step out on faith. Let me bet on myself. Let me, quote, jump out the window, as one mentor told me, and, see how high this thing can fly. And so far, it's been a wonderful, very rewarding and fulfilling experience. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're practicing in California, mainly, and the majority of your practice, as I mentioned, is sort of discrimination, police brutality, those sorts of things. Can you kind of just unpack that for the people? What does that actually look like in terms of the type of law that you practice? What do you find yourself actually doing most of the time?
Of course. So usually what happens is if somebody gets, God forbid, shot, pepper sprayed, tasered, unlawfully searched, or unlawfully arrested by a police officer, and their rights, their federal rights against search and seizure, unlawful searches, excessive force, etc., have been violated, then they called me and lawyers like me to file either federal or state lawsuits to vindicate their rights. What a lot of people don't understand is your rights themselves have value. Most of the time we hear terrible cases such as Sonia Massey, God rest her soul, George Floyd, things of that nature. But if an officer unlawfully searches your purse or frisks you or does any of those things, those rights themselves have value. For example, one of my clients was a 75-year-old Korean woman. She was pulled over by LAPD officers. She didn't speak English. She gave them her license and registration, but she requested an interpreter because, again, she doesn't speak English. They wouldn't give her one. So she gets on her phone, she calls 911, she requests an interpreter. Within 8 seconds on dash cam, they grab her, they throw her to the ground, they scrape her face, put a knee on her neck, handcuff her, search her car, search her purse, and then let her go at the scene. A lot of the time civil rights attorneys, they wouldn't take the case because it wasn't death, lame, or maim. They didn't think it was big enough for them. I took the case because it pissed me off.
Yeah.
The city attorney, the defender of the LAPD said, well, you know what, Mr. Kizzie, we're not going to settle this case for 6 figures because that's just not how we roll. I was like, all right, we'll see how you roll. Because she didn't know that I've been on the defense side of this for a long time. So I knew all the arguments, the trainings, the law, everything about it. I wasn't some novice. So I end up dissecting her officers in deposition on training, policies, all these different things. And I file a federal lawsuit. And I did a federal plaintiff's motion for summary judgment, meaning that these facts are undisputed. And under these undisputed facts, we should win. The mediator said, in my 30 years of practice, I've never seen anybody do that. But I did it because I wanted to keep them on the defense. And the federal judge granted my motion on 6 out of my 7 causes of action, including excessive force, unlawful arrest, unlawful search of her purse, unlawful search of her car. And they ended up settling for just under $500,000.
Wow.
So your rights themselves have value, whether it's everything from a shooting to a pat down to a search. So that is essentially what my practice entails as a civil rights police misconduct attorney, defending the rights of the people from police misconduct of any type.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, and I think you probably made your client a very happy woman by the time it was all said and done. Right. So that's so very interesting because I think what we see, and I think if anybody who's plugged into the news, you see this on the news, you see it on Instagram and social media, you see police encounters, and I imagine we're seeing a lot more of it now because of body cam footage. And I wonder what you think how the body cam footage and sort of the increased scrutiny of police encounters, how that has impacted the field and how that impacts your work.
Absolutely. You know what was revolutionary in these police misconduct lawsuits, even before body cam footage? Cell phones, citizen reporters. Back in the day, in the Johnny Cochran days, so many of these cases, there was no cameras, there was no cell phone footage. So it was a lot of the officer's word against the other person's word, maybe even the decedent who can't talk because they're dead, right? But with the advent of cell phones, surveillance, and a combination of body cam, that can greatly help in these type of cases. It could help or hurt. Because on one hand, if you come to me saying this officer jacked me up and I didn't do nothing, okay, but then I see you on camera acting less than holy, so to speak, that may hurt your credibility. However, vice versa, it can certainly help in these cases because officers, just like anybody else, they could tell the truth or they could lie for their own self-benefit. So in types of cases such as Sonia Massey, where he says, oh, when you saw the other officers come to the scene, he said, and quote, "This crazy bitch tried to throw hot water at me." You saw in the video, no such incident occurred. He told her
Not even
to
close.
go to the stove to turn off the pot of water because he didn't want to start a fire. So all of those different things, he escalated the situation. So with the use of body cam footage, the use of citizen cell phone reporters, these cases, in my view, have increased significantly because people have seen that, hey, you may support the police and, for a good reason, but they lie just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And it may help get justice where otherwise justice might not have been able to have been obtained.
Yeah.
Especially in the case of accident.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love that because I think one of the narratives that we've got to, I don't know, that we just as a culture, as a community, as a nation have got to dispel is that, people of color don't want police around or don't want to have police. No, we do. I think Kamala Harris actually said it best when she was a district attorney, or she may have been in a higher office in California at that point was having that conversation. But no, we want to be safe, right? We don't want our cars broken into. We don't want our homes broken into. We want our children to be able to be safe and go play. But we want our rights protected as well. And I think that goes for anybody, whatever your race or creed, your white people, as you mentioned, the Korean lady, like no one wants to be, wants to have their rights violated. And it just, it should be a given, right? We just want, we want police to do right and act right. And we want to be able to hold them accountable when they don't. And a lot of people don't seem to, they don't apply that narrative, especially to people of color for whatever reason. And I don't understand that.
Yeah. Especially, mentally ill people of color. How many reports on the news have you seen where a family of color calls the police because a family member is having a mental illness episode and that family member ends up dead?
Yeah.
Way more. How many stories have you heard of a white family calling for a family member who's experiencing mental illness and that family member ends up dead? I can't think of any, let alone in recent history. Yeah. Some communities are handled with velvet gloves while others, receive bullets and bandages. So definitely think, I agree with you that, look, we want and we support law enforcement because we understand their need, oftentimes even more because some people in certain communities have higher rates of crime, higher rates of gun violence, all of these things. We need law enforcement and, that type of protection and assistance. However, with the advent again of cell phones and surveillance and body camera, you can see stark differences, demonstrable differences in how certain communities are treated versus others. And all we want is to be treated fairly, equally under the law like everybody else.
Yeah, I never understand the narrative either, where it's like people almost, it's like police can do no wrong. And I never understand that. It's like they do things and we need to hold them accountable. It's just the bad ones. But even when it's the bad ones, you find a reason to not want to hold them accountable either. And I don't know. I don't get that narrative, but I don't want to beat up on the police. We appreciate the police and the work that they do. But we also abide by the fact that no one is above the law, at least for now, until the Supreme Court says otherwise. But listen, let me get back to you. I want to get to, some of your experience. I'd like to know what's been in your practice. You've been practicing for some time now. I'd like to know what's been your most teachable moment where you sort of really learned a lesson and it's like, okay, that's never going to happen to me again. And then what's been your maybe your big highlight where it's been like, wow, I'm really operating in my gift and my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Sure thing. A really hard lesson I've learned in the practice of law is that it's not won by scoreboards. You often think, if I do a great job, if I'm a better lawyer, if I have better evidence and better facts, I should win. However, especially in civil rights, you learn that you may lose cases that you should have won. You may win cases that maybe weren't the strongest. You just cannot guarantee any ultimate outcome to your client. And one of my biggest teachable moments of that was a case where I represented a brother against the LAPD. He called them because he was being assaulted by a transient in a park. However, they handcuffed him. They handcuffed him behind his back. They told him to sit down on a sidewalk. And as he's trying to sit down, which is hard when you have your hands behind your back, they shoved him to the ground and ended up breaking both of his wrists while in the handcuffs. And he's an IT guy. Both of his arms were in casts for months. He couldn't wipe his own ass for months. I filed a lawsuit, and a federal judge on the eve of trial granted the officers qualified immunity.
Oh, wow.
That is a very hard doctrine that you've probably heard of, which means that even if the force was unreasonable, even if the officer violated your rights, they are entitled to immunity unless there is a case out there that says if you shove somebody in handcuffs, that clearly establishes a constitutional violation. You have to literally show that there's a case on all fours, just like your case, where the court said that this person clearly established, they clearly violated his rights, which is very hard to find because no two cases are alike. And I couldn't do anything for the brother after that.
Wow.
I appealed it. I did everything I could. We still lost the case, not because of anything you did, not because of anything I did wrong, not because we didn't have a strong case, not because of anything that he did wrong, but because of qualified immunity, a made-up Supreme Court doctrine that grants officers, in some cases, carte blanche immunity. That was a very bitter, agonizing lesson to learn. Because again, these law cases aren't won by scoreboards, and sometimes a jury just may or may not give a F. Yeah. Ultimately, they still support the police. So that is a very hard lesson to learn. So you have to be careful of that.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask. I want to ask what then, if you'll enlighten us a bit. So what then was the difference between the Korean lady's story and this IT guy's story? Was it because it was a federal and a state issue? I mean, what was the difference? Why was there immunity in one and victory in the other?
You know what's wild is the same federal judge sat on both of my cases.
Wow.
And he granted qualified immunity against my client, but he granted on the case with my Korean client my motion for summary judgment.
Wow.
As to what his rationale or thinking was, I can speculate. Ultimately, I think he felt more sorry for this old Asian woman probably than he did for this middle-aged brother who got handcuffed. That's just me. But it can be inexplicable why in this case did you, and the judge granted qualified immunity sua sponte, meaning on his own. Yeah, the city didn't ask him to. He did it on his own.
Wow.
The judge might have been able to do qualified immunity in my Korean lady case as well, but he didn't.
Interesting.
So anything could happen really in these type of cases, which is why you always have to let your client know that you can't guarantee anything. All I can guarantee is that I will fight for you. I will do my best and do everything I can to get you justice. So that was a very tough lesson to learn among those that, hey, sometimes judges aren't fair. Sometimes things just don't go your way. Sometimes you get your teeth, sometimes you kick teeth in, sometimes you get your teeth kicked in, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Indeed.
That's a hard lesson. And in terms of, one of my highlights, again, in addition to the case with the Korean lady, there's another case with a brother who had his shoulder, I think, dislocated by County of San Bernardino or County of Riverside sheriffs, a young brother. And I was able to get him a fairly large settlement for those injuries as well. So, so for those cases, it's more than really just, it's so cliche, but it's really true once you've been practicing in this for a while. Money comes, money goes, you win, you lose. But when you have been able to use your mind and your heart and your effort to really make a difference to your client, and they're happy and they feel vindicated and they feel heard, that to me really outweighs whatever joy you may get from a check, in my view. That Korean lady invited me over to dinner to her house afterwards because she was so happy. That brother, me and him, we went out for drinks afterwards because he was so happy. So for me, at least, the way I practice is that I focus more so on trying to get the best possible outcome for my client and, letting them feel vindicated, letting them feel heard. I think those are my career highlights. And when that happens, that feels great.
Yeah, agreed. There's something about, being able to be a problem solver for your client, right? To be able to come in and fight for their rights and leave them better than you found them. There's something very, I don't know what the word is, something very empowering, enlightening, bright about that. And that's something that the practice of law offers that not a lot of fields offer in the same way.
That's true. That's true. That's akin to like a doctor curing a disease.
Yeah.
That's to, a teacher teaching a student who may struggle in something, and then that student, is able to graduate or something. It is that intangible thing that ultimately you strive for in yourself. Because if you just do it for the money, you're going to burn out quickly because most cases you lose. Yeah. It's true. As a plaintiff, there's feast and famine. So if you're doing it for the money or if you're just doing it for the win, you will burn out quickly. But if you really do it because you actually care about making a difference in someone's life, because you as a lawyer have the power as a social engineer to do so, that, in my view, is what satisfies me.
Okay, good deal. I like that. All right, so we're running out of time here, but I want to get to my favorite question. So I would like to know what counsel you have maybe for your younger self or for some other young, budding attorney out there who's, looking at this and seeing you and saying, hey, I want to be like that guy. What counsel do you have? What would you say to your younger self or to that young budding attorney?
Don't do it. Do something else.
Find something else to do.
but if you insist, if that is your calling, then I would say, two things. Find out what interests you. All right. I went to law school at UCLA to study entertainment law, which I still practice and which I enjoy because I'm also a creative at heart. But while I was in law school during my career, I was also open to other opportunities that allowed me to develop and discover this love for civil rights work and personal injury work. I kept my mind open to other experiences, different classes, different places to work where I was able to sort of find, I feel like, there was what I thought my calling was, and then I was able to find what I feel like my calling really is.
Wow.
So I would say, just like any other profession, perfect your craft, give yourself grace, give yourself patience, pray on it, and do your best. All you can ever do is just do your best. Don't tie your worth to results because sometimes results are out of your control. Yeah. But if you hold yourself to a certain standard, I might win, I might lose, but I'll never be out lawyered. Then I think ultimately, and you enjoy what you do, you'll have a fulfilling career no matter what you do. So that's what I would say. Keep it in perspective. My dad always said, it's not the size of the mountain, it's your perception of it.
Wow.
So I started law school at 21. So a lot of this is that I'm saying is in hindsight. But if I could talk to my younger self, I would say it's going to be all right. Just keep going.
Receive that. I received that. You're a senior attorney to me, so I I hear you. I thank you for spending the time with us today. What a great conversation. I had a lot of fun. I hope you'll come back and share with us
Love
and
to.
maybe talk to us about some of the things that are going on in the world. I think you and I could chat all day about some of the legal things, and I've got lots of legal questions that I know people have. So I hope you'll come back and chat with us in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. And hey, man, you let me know when and where, brother, and I'll be there.
All
See
right,
you
good
again
man.
soon.
And Antonio Kizzie, everybody. Thank you, counselor. We'll be in touch. All right, friends, we'll be right back with your wellness check. All right, friends, we're back. It's now time for your wellness check. The wellness check today is one of our greatest freedoms is how we respond. I'll say it again. One of our greatest freedoms is how we respond to things. And so I encourage us today to focus on responding to things, responding to stimuli, and not reacting. What does that mean? What does that mean, Brendan? What are you talking about? What's the difference between responding and reacting? Well, I am so glad you asked. Right, responding is when something happens and you take a moment to process it, to understand what's happening, and to calculate how you should respond in the space. Reacting is almost instinctual. Hope I'm saying that right. It's a snap. It's stimuli happens and boom, and you're reacting. That's a reaction. Uh, Response instead of reaction means that we are going to take some time to think about it, to understand what's happening, and be able to determine our outcome as best as possible by how we choose to engage. It's a freedom we have, and one of our greatest freedoms. And remember, if you don't honor that freedom and respond versus reacting, you may not have freedom at all. That's your wellness check, friends. Remember to live life in peace and not pieces. We'll be right back with our Apex highlight. All right, friends, we are back. It's now time for our Apex highlight. I am super excited to welcome my friend, Mr. Chef Eli Townsend. It's a new title, I guess. Chef Eli is a renowned culinary expert. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. He's a great chef and a great friend of mine. He is the head chef, and okay, wait a minute. He is the executive chef and owner of Dos Hermanos Cafe at the historic Cosset Library here in Memphis, Tennessee. He's also the executive chef at the Sage Restaurant, which is a Black-owned restaurant here also in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm also happy to say that Chef Eli is also a sponsor for our Bluff City Ball. So we're super excited to welcome him here and to our show, to Lawyers. Chef Eli, welcome to Lawyers. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So listen, I got to just say thanks. You're an Emerald sponsor for the Bluff City Ball. So we're excited to share the evening with you and as we help raise funds for all of these wonderful different organizations. And so we look forward to being able to dine with you and to be able to participate in the Bluff City Ball with you. So thank you for that. I want to start by just expressing my extreme gratitude for your sponsorship of our event. And on behalf of the 7 different organizations which we're supporting, thank you so much, and looking forward to supporting your business as well. So, Chef Eli,
Yes,
tell
sir.
us about Dos Hermanos Cafe. You've got this beautiful restaurant here in the historic Cosset Library in Memphis, Tennessee. Tell us, where'd you come up with this idea, and what's it like? What's the experience like at Dos Hermanos?
Okay. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. So imagine being an 8-year-old boy and you live I guess, in an impoverished area, and your means for a positive outlet is a library bookmobile that comes around every week and you check out books. And I entered this contest to see who could read the most books, and I would win a bike. My brother convinced me because at the time I could not ride a bike. He could. And so I won the contest. And then imagine 35 years later to have a cafe inside of a Memphis public library that is the catalyst for you discovering your passion and your purpose is kind of a very full circle
Yeah.
moment and story. And so Dos Hermanos, which means two brothers, the name kind of came about. One day I made some lamb tacos for a friend of mine, and he was like, you should open a food truck and call it Dos Hermanos. And so it was a running joke. I've never had a desire to have a food truck, but when presented with the opportunity of having the space inside of Casa, the library, the name kind of stuck on me. It was a little ambiguous because most people assume that it's some kind of Spanish food,
Yeah.
but it is soul fusion, and our mantra is we create food that inspires.
Okay. So you have this, I guess you're sort of known for this soul fusion food. It's like soul food fused with, I don't know. I don't know what, can you, well, why don't I let you tell us what is
Okay, I
soul
can do that.
food? Okay.
So prior to becoming the executive chef at Sage, I worked a lot in nonprofit and community development as a chef. A neighborhood here in Memphis, Tennessee, it's called Binghamton, has a very huge population of immigrants and refugees. There's about 23 different ethnicities in that radius. And so I worked for Caritas Village and the Binghamton Development Corporation. And we found that food was a universal language in that area, and it could help some of those immigrants and refugees have a little sustainability in their life. And so we created this program called the Cook's Cookbook, and it's a 13-week entrepreneurial program. You learn culinary basics as well as the epicenter taught them the business aspect. And so while being the instructor of the culinary basics, I learned a lot as the teacher for my students. I had students from Sudan, Lebanese, just all over the globe. And so I became the student and learned how to use their spices and some of their techniques. And I fused it with what I've known since childhood, which is soul food. And that's how I developed soul fusion for myself.
Okay. And it's obviously been a great success. You've done well, at Sage and other places, and doing well as a caterer. You cater, private events all the time. Plus now you've got the Dos Hermanos. How do you manage it all? You seem to be doing quite a bit, and you've made time to be on this podcast. So how do you do it all?
If you only knew the things that I had to do prior to signing in here. But I'm a firm believer that your gifts and your talents, they always make room for you, and that God wouldn't give you anything that you couldn't handle. And so, and I give myself permission in any circumstance or situation, whether it's personal or professional, when it no longer serves me, I give myself permission to walk away and just, it's no longer for me to do. And so that's kind of how I operate. And, I like to say that I specialize in results. And so I just get up and do my best. And some days that's 80 and some days it's 20, but, it's a part of just being human. And I don't try to overanalyze it, or, if something doesn't work out that day, we can always start over when the sun comes up.
Yeah, indeed. Right. There was a motivational moment a couple of episodes ago. It's like I borrowed it from Glorilla, and it was at the end of the day's got to end. Right.
Has to, right?
It's got to end, and so that we can start anew. Okay, so you have, I think you talked about sort of your initial sort of inspiration for cooking, sort of being birthed from, or maybe being cultivated from this library, this mobile library. I think you and I have talked. You kind of got a hold to a cookbook, right? Isn't that how that happened?
So the initial why I was interested in cooking from the beginning is I come from a single parent home. My mom was raising 4 children, and something in my little 8-year-old self. I remember the summer before I started checking out cookbooks. We went to the store, Zayre's, if you're that old and remember that store, and it was time to get Christmas decorations. And we sat in the car. It was her and I, and she was like, "I can't do it." I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "I just don't have the energy to go in the store." I said, "So here's what we'll do. I'll go in and pick out everything. You can come in and pay for it." And so somewhere I knew my mom needed help. And so that was kind of the real catalyst for, oh, I'll learn how to cook and maybe that will help her out. And so I began to check out cookbooks. I remember my first cookbook, it was by Julia Childs. And
Oh wow.
so that was the first one. I was ambitious, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I think I
Indeed.
think at 8, I tried to make a wedding cake. Oh, I was very ambitious. I was the aunt that can't for sure. And so, but yeah, that's kind of how it all began. Wanting to be a support for my mom.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine you did that, right? So you got you had this ambition, right? That was the spark, right? I think somehow you found this book that helped to sort of fan the flames of that, and sort of now that somehow you developed into who you are today. Do you have like what do they call sort of a you know I don't know how to say this. Did you go to school somewhere? Did
Oh
you
yes, I
so
did. I
tell
did
us about
attend
that. How did
culinary
you
school.
actually, yeah, please go on.
I will say, I went to Lacole Culinary. It was a school here in Memphis, Tennessee, out on Germantown Parkway. And I just, culinary school taught me discipline. It
Mm,
was the thing that helped me, really hone my skills and the importance of knowing about food, flavor, where it comes from, how to handle it, all of those things. It's definitely a combination of education and life experiences because I had been engrossed in food since I was 8 years old. Somehow between high school and college, I went to college for musical theater of all things, and that was kind of my first career path out of college. And then one day it just hit me. I looked over just the trajectory of my family, and I discovered I come from a people of service, and that was a part of my purpose to serve others and to help others celebrate and create. And food was the venue in which I was able to do that. And
wow.
so, yeah, it wasn't met with the best thing with my mom. She was a single mom, and she was like, I was wasting food. I was 8 years old, should have been operating a stove. So yeah, at first, I think my first meal was like fried chicken and spaghetti. It's a Southern thing. Don't judge us. And I got a whooping behind that because yeah,
Why?
because I was 8 and I had turned on the stove and I was cooking and no one was there to guide. And again, she was a single mom, and to her, I was wasting food.
Well, was it
So
good or what? I mean, was it not
it
good? I
was
don't.
horrible.
Okay.
Let me tell you. So I'm 8 years old, right? So this is how I made the spaghetti. So I knew to brown the ground beef because I saw that happen. And then I knew to strain it in the colander. But I had only seen things washed out in the colander, rinsed off. So I rinsed off all the spices from the ground beef,
Oh
put
Lord.
the water on it, and then I put it back in the pot. And then I took whole tomatoes and the pasta, and I put it in the pot, and I just mashed it all together because I'm 8 years old here, people. And the chicken was black and red, and so it was a utter disaster for sure. And
Okay.
it happened on a Friday, which
Well,
was pizza night. And so, yeah, yeah,
okay. You probably needed an ass whooping then, but
I did.
and unfortunately, right, this was before the days of gentle parenting, right? I think you probably didn't need an ass whooping, but that's how things were dealt with back then.
I definitely needed some rearing. How about we'll
Yeah,
say
okay.
that?
Some guidance, right? Like you needed some
Absolutely.
supervision. You should have like asked or something. Like you needed some help there. But
I thought I was helping, but
yeah,
hey,
yeah. Well, nonetheless, right? That I think that sort of helped blossom you into where you are today, and now you're the
definitely.
boss in the kitchen, right? You are you are
Hey,
running the
who would
show.
imagine, right? Who would
Well, that's so
imagine?
That's so great. I think that it's so exciting to see you doing what you're doing, and I think you're right in terms of food being a universal language. People like to eat; they love to eat, and we and we need to eat. We have to eat to sustain ourselves, right? That's
Hmm.
how it works. And so, in a way, you get an opportunity to minister to people, right? Food. We think about how food, when we're ill, you got a chicken noodle soup that kind of makes you feel
Absolutely.
better, or if you're whatever the case, if you're feeling down, right, or sad, and something sweet or something, will kind of
Hmm.
uplift you, or that good soul food, good home cooking will kind of change your mood. So I
Absolutely.
think what you do is pretty incredible. Can you speak to kind of the impact you think your food and food in general has on the community? I mean, you said you agree. I mean, I'm right. I like to hear that, but I want to hear your perspective on that as well.
Absolutely. So again, as you said, I definitely believe that it is a universal language, and it has the ability to take us places we may never be able to physically go through our taste buds,
Wow.
and it helps create moments. Everything in life that exists, food is involved. If we're celebrating, there it's weddings, graduations. If we're honoring someone, food is present, and also it can be used as a tool for change because it can counterpart with conversations that impact how we live and how we grow. And so I'm very fortunate to be able to do something that I love, and I know that it's going to impact someone's day in a positive way. The experience and exchange.
I think we're having some.
Something weird happened there. My
Yes.
apologies.
Okay. No. All right. You're
Okay.
back.
And so, knowing that I was able to impact someone's day in a positive way by doing something that I just absolutely love to do. I wouldn't want to do anything else in the world. I prefer catering over restaurant work
Okay.
because I like the adrenaline. It's a different experience every time.
With
Restaurant
catering, it
work
is.
can be, it is. So
Okay.
I get to create this custom menu to help celebrate whatever the moment is. And weddings are my favorite, and I take weddings very serious because I'll be a part of their forever memory
Yeah.
of whatever it is they exchange. But restaurant work can be very grueling and mundane and repetitive, and it can be
Mm,
stifling creatively.
I see.
Because when you create something that people want, they want it the same way every single time. And
Sure.
so it doesn't always give you the room to grow, evolve, try new things. And
Yeah.
so most spaces that I enter, that is a requirement that my creativity is not stifled and that I have full autonomy in that area. And, I've grown, at first I used to be really vigilant about that. And, and my sister so eloquently reminded me, we'd go out to eat or go places. She's like, no one wants to know the culinary value. We just want to have a good time. Can you not do that everywhere? And so I've learned, we live, we learn, we get love. And I
We
had to
grow. Right.
understand that we grow. And so I had to understand that, oh, if I, if my intention is to give my best, everyone else is entitled to their opinion. That doesn't mean that it has anything to do with my best.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so interesting that you say that, right? Because I'm one of those people that if I go to a restaurant, for the most part, I'm going to get the same thing. Once I find what I want, I may venture off a little bit, but I want what I want, and I kind of want I wanted the way I had it the first time. I had it. Give me that. So I get that. But I want to get into a little bit of this before we run out of time. The business of food, right? I think oftentimes we
Hmm.
see chefs, in the kitchen. It's about taste buds, but being a restaurateur or being a caterer or a chef, there's a business side to that. Can you speak to
Yes.
what that is like and what that looks like as well?
Oh, it is. Just imagine having to be, for lack of a better phrase, the brains and the beauty of
Yeah.
everything. And
Right.
so it is very toiling. It was it was the most challenging part for me entering into entrepreneurship. I'm very grateful that I had organizations here in Memphis like Art Up and Epicenter that were there to help navigate those paths for me. But it's an entire another job. You
Yeah,
know, not
it
only am
is.
I the person that's standing in the kitchen making sure the food tastes good for you, I'm the person that pays the bills. I'm the person that, you know, makes sure that payroll is entered. And yes, I have some assistance in that area, but mainly it all falls on me. So I would encourage anyone that's involved in food or looking to be a food entrepreneur, really take the time to learn the business side. And you know, you're going to have to ask questions. Prime example, in opening Dos Hermanos, you know, you would think when you go to the city and you apply for your business license, they would say, okay, so here's what you do next. That does not happen. They give
Yeah,
you your license, and then you find out 6 months down the road, oh, you're good, but you're not good. You also have to go register with the state, apply for your sales tax, do all of these things. And so just give yourself some grace. Find a core group of people who support you. You know, if you're going to be the creative side, have someone on your team who knows the financial aspects of that or the operational things, and kind of learn just a little bit about all those things so that you're in the know, so that you're not, you know, out here where publicly everything looks good to everyone else, but you know, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, which, you know, we're in a very dire strain in the hospitality industry right now. The price of food continues to fluctuate, rise and fall. Since COVID, the quality of employees has decreased
yeah,
because a lot of people left the industry because it was hit very hard. And so, and then it's challenging because now we have to add things like credit card fees and liquor by the tax. And you have to decide, am I going to give that to my customer or am I going to eat that kind of cost? And
yeah.
so it's just navigating through all those things. But as I say always, your gifts and talents will always make room for you. And if you stay in tune with what it is that you're supposed to do, the right people always seem to gravitate to help you, not only to become a dreamer, a thinker, and a doer.
That's really good. Well, I think you answered my one of my big questions, which is, what counsel would you have for some, your younger self or some budding chef who may be looking at you. And so, I mean, I'll allow you to add to that if you want, but I want to. The other part of the other question I always have is, what's been your biggest teachable moment, and what's been your biggest highlight in your career thus far?
So to add to that, I would say you are going to be the least paid person ever. So just get used to it. I am the least paid a person. You know, just being very candid. When we break down the dollars and cents, I haven't made one single solitary dollar for Dos Hermanos. We've been open a little over a year, but me personally, nothing. My advice that I would give to my younger self, or something that a moment for me, is when I had to learn. You know, you can put the same ingredients in front of two people, and they could be very skilled at their craft as far as cooking. I had to learn and appreciate that I am the secret. I am the secret behind whatever it is that I create. And so I have to make sure that when I'm in a space to give to others, mentally, I'm in a good space. I'm responsible for what I'm going to give out. And so that kind of helped me appreciate my skill set and my craft and my gifts that I have, just really knowing that it's me, and that I needed to own that, but I also need to be responsible for how I give, what I give to other people.
Boy, that is good. Boy, that was you impressive. You chef that up. All right, tell people how they can find you and get some of your food. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because we got to get Dos Hermanos some more money and keep you guys going. Tell us how we can.
Absolutely. I am Chef Eli. I am the owner and executive chef of Dos Hermanos Kitchen. It is located in the historic Cosset Library in downtown Memphis. You can find me on social media platforms at by Chef Eli, or you can check out Dos Hermanos Cafe. I'm also the executive chef of Sage Memphis, which is located in the heart of downtown as well. So if you're looking to come to either place, please come see me. And we like to create food that inspires. And I look forward to feeding each of you very soon.
Thank you, Chef Eli. This guy is one of the best chefs in the city. He specializes in results, so he can do it. Whatever it is, he can do it. So thank you, Chef Eli. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we're grateful to have you. And again, thanks again for being a part of the Bluff City Ball. You can also come to the Bluff City Ball and taste some of his food there. He'll be there. You can meet him in person. And we look forward to that and much more partnership to come. Go to Dos Hermanos, go to Sage. Let's have a good time and support this brother and his work. Thanks again, Chef Eli. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me. You too.
Friends, we'll be right back with the motivational moment. All right, friends, we're back. It's now time for our motivational moment. I think we've heard a little bit of this today, actually. There's a bit of an undertone. The motivational moment is real simple today. It shall come to pass. That thing, that vision, that thing that you got on the inside of you that you want to do, that you're feeling led to do, that you've been working at and working on. It may seem like it's off in the distance, like it's eluding you, but I want to encourage you today that it shall come to pass. Your gifts will make room for you, as we heard from Chef Eli. And we also heard that alluded to by our friend Antonio Kizzie. Hey, if it's on the inside of you, it's there for a reason, and it shall come to pass. You just got to keep doing the work. That's a message to me as well. So that's your motivational moment, friends. We'll be right back to wrap things up. Well, friends, we've done it again. That's season 3, episode 11. It's a wrap. I want to thank my guest, attorney Antonio Kizzie, the Kizzie firm, and Chef Eli of Dos Hermanos Cafe and Sage. Really appreciate those two gentlemen spending some time with us today. What a great episode. I'm glad to be back in the mix and back in this chair with every one of you. Thank you for listening and for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Just like any voyage, it's always a little bit more fun if you can bring a friend or two along. Thank you so much. Lawyers is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence, and powered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. Thanks again to Kirk Smith for the Voyage vibe today. It's Prodigal Son. And also big shout out to the Music Bank for making this possible. I look forward to being back in the mix with you guys. Send your questions, email us. You can email us. The email address is lawyerish@apexgroupbc.com. And that's lawyerish@apexgroupbc.com. We welcome your feedback and your questions. Happy to get them answered for you. Well, I think until next time, I can just tell you I'll be back and looking forward to chatting with you again. Thanks again for letting me do this, guys. It's such a pleasure. We'll see you next time. Be well.